In the vast and restless waters of the North Atlantic Ocean, where powerful waves crash against the dark coastlines and icy winds sweep across the sea, a strange island suddenly appeared where none had existed before, not thousands of years ago, not even centuries ago, but within the living memory. In November of 1963, sailors traveling south of Iceland noticed something extraordinary rising from the ocean. At first, it looked like something smoke rising from the water, then the sea began to boil. Dark ash shot into the sky, and slowly, dramatically, land itself began to emerge from beneath the waves. A brand new island was being born. This island would later be named Surtsey Island, after the a feared giant from ancient Norse mythology who was said to bring the flames at the end of the world. But Surtsey was not the end of the world, it was the beginning of something remarkable. For scientists, it became one of the rarest natural experiments on the Earth, a place where they could watch the life slowly arrive on a completely new island. No plants, no animals, no soil, just raw volcanic rock rising from the sea. How would nature respond? Which nature creatures would arrive first? Would birds bring the seeds from the distant land? Would Moses and legions take hold on the black lava? How long would it take for a lifeless island to transform into a thriving ecosystem? And perhaps most intriguing of all, could humans resist the temptation to interfere? Today, the Surtsey Island remains one of the most carefully protected places on the planet, a living laboratory where the scientists can witness the earliest stages of life colonizing the new island. It is a reminder that our planet is still alive, still changing, and still capable of creating entirely new landscape right before our eyes. Because sometimes the strangest islands on Earth are not ancient mysteries, sometimes they are newborn worlds. When most people imagine islands, they picture beautiful beaches, tropical palm trees, and the clear blue water. Islands are often seen as beautiful vacation destinations, places where travelers escape the noise of the busy cities and enjoy the calm of nature. But not all the islands are peaceful paradise. Across the ocean of our planet, there are islands that seem almost unreal, places shaped by the powerful natural forces, strange ecosystem, and mysterious history. Some islands are covered with bizarre landscapes that look like they belong on another planet. Others are home to animals and plants found nowhere else on Earth. A few islands are so dangerous or isolated that humans rarely visit them at all. These unusual places remind us that the Earth is still one full of surprises, even in the modern age of satellites and global exploration. Certain islands continue to challenge our understanding of nature. Some are born suddenly through their volcanic eruptions deep beneath the ocean. Others have their ecosystem so fragile that scientists must carefully protect them from the human disturbance, and in rare cases, islands remain almost completely untouched, preserving the natural processes that have been unfolding for centuries. One of the most extraordinary examples of such a place is Surtsey Island. Located in the cold waters of the North Atlantic Ocean, just south of islands, Surtsey is unlike most islands in the world. It did not form slowly over thousands of years through their erosion or coral growth. Instead, it appeared suddenly in the 20th century during a dramatic volcanic eruption beneath the sea. Before 1963, nothing existed in the location but open ocean. Then, over the course of several months, the explosions of lava and ash pushed the new land above the surface of the water. What had once been empty sea became a black volcanic island rising against the horizon. For scientists, this event was incredibly rare. Very few people in the history have witnessed the birth of a completely new island. Even fewer have had the opportunity to study what happens next, how life slowly arises, how ecosystems develop, and how the nature transforms the raw volcanic into a living landscape. But Surtsey offered exactly what opportunity. Almost immediately after the island appeared, researchers realized its scientific value. If left undisturbed, the island could reveal how plants, birds, insects, and other organisms colonized the brand new land from the very beginning. To protect this natural experiment, the government of Ireland declared Sussex a strictly protected scientific reserve. Only a small number of researchers are allowed to visit, ensuring that the island develops naturally without human interference. Over the time, the wind, the ocean currents, and migrating birds have slowly brought the life to the island. Tiny seeds arrive from the distant source. The mosses and lichens cling to the volcanic rock. Seabirds began nesting along the cliffs. What was one lifeless island of ash is gradually becoming a living ecosystem. Thus, we remind us that our planet is constantly changing. New landscapes are still forming, nature is always adapting, and even the most barren places can eventually become full of life. And that is what makes islands like Surtsey so fascinating. They allow us to witness the powerful and mysterious processes that continue shaping our world. To understand the remarkable story of Surtsey Island, it has to first imagine where this unusual island lies on the map of our planet. Surtsey is located in the cold, powerful waters of the North Atlantic Ocean, an ocean known for its dramatic storms, deep underwater ridges, and intense volcanic activity beneath the seafloor. This region of the Atlantic is particularly active because it lies along the Mid-Atlantic Ridge, a massive underwater mountain chain where the two of Earth's tectonic plates slowly move apart. These geological forces constantly reshape the ocean floor, creating the volcanoes, the earthquakes, and occasionally even the new islands. The Surtsey is just south of the island nation of the Iceland, one of the most volcanically active places in the world. Island itself was formed by the volcanic eruption along the mid-Atlantic ridge over millions of years, and the country is famous for its glaciers, lava fields, great glaciers, and active volcanoes. More specifically, Surtsey lies near the southern edge of the Westmannaeyja, also known as the Westman Islands. This small archipelago consists of several volcanic islands that rise dramatically from the ocean just off the island's southern coast. Among these islands, Surtsey is the youngest. The island sits approximately 32 kilometers or about 20 miles south island mainland coastline. From the air, it appears as a dark volcanic shape surrounded by the restless ocean waves and steep coastal cliffs. Despite its relatively short distance from Iceland, Surtsey feels extremely remote. The surrounding ocean is cold and often rough, with the strong winds and frequent storms whipping across the region. The climate here is far from the tropical. Instead of palm trees and warm beaches, this part of the Atlantic experiences the cold temperatures throughout the year. Ocean fog, powerful winds, and icy rain are common, especially during the winter months. These conditions make the island feel wild and untamed. When it first emerged from the ocean in 1916, Surtsey was much larger than it is today. The volcanic eruption that created the island produced enormous amounts of ash, lava, and rock, building a rough volcanic landscape that rose dramatically above the sea. At its largest point, the island covered around 2.7 square kilometers. Over time, however, powerful waves and ocean erosion have gradually worn away some of the softer volcanic material. Today, Surtsey is slightly smaller, covering roughly 1.3 square kilometers, though its shape continues to change slowly as natural forces reshape the coastline. The island terrain is entirely volcanic. Instead of pitches formed by sand or coral, the land is made of hardened lava flow, volcanic ash, and black basalt rock. Some areas consist of steep cliffs where the waves crash violently against the shore, while other sections are covered with loose volcanic sand created by eroding lava. Near the center of the island rises a volcanic crater, the very place where the fiery eruption once passed through the ocean surface during the island's dramatic birth. This crater once spewed columns of ash and steam thousands of meters into the sky. Today the volcano is quiet, but the landscape still carries the unmistakable marks of its fiery origin. Surtsey is not a tropical island, nor it is frozen like those found near the polar regions. Instead, it exists in a unique environment shaped by both volcanic activity and the cold climate of the North Atlantic. Its remote location and harsh weather have helped keep the island largely untouched by humans. In fact, access to Surtsey is strictly limited. The government of Ireland protects the island as a scientific reserve, allowing only a small number of researchers to visit under controlled conditions. This protection ensures that the island ecosystem develops naturally without outside interference. As a result, Surtsey remains one of the most isolated and scientifically valuable islands on Earth, a rare place where scientists can observe how life slowly transforms a brand new volcanic island into a living landscape. In the vast waters of the North Atlantic, Surtsey stands as a small but extraordinary reminder that our planet is still capable of creating entirely new land even in the modern age. At first glance, Surtsey Island may look like a small dark volcanic island surrounded by the cold waters of the North Atlantic Ocean, but what makes Surtsey truly extraordinary is not just its appearance, it is the incredible story of how the island was born and the rare scientific mystery it continues to present. Unlike most islands on Earth, which formed thousands or even millions of years ago, Surtsey is extremely young. In fact, it only appeared in 1963 during a powerful underwater volcanic eruption of south of Iceland. Before that moment, nothing existed in the location except the open ocean. Then suddenly the molten lava began pushing upward through the seafloor, creating the violent explosions of ash, steam, and volcanic rock. Within days, a brand new island began to rise above the waves. For scientists, this event was astonishing. Rarely in the history has the humanity been able to witness the complete birth of an island from the ocean. The most volcanic island formed long before humans had the technology to observe them closely. But with Surtsey, scientists could watch the entire process unfold. This is one reason the island is so unusual. It provides a rare opportunity to study landforms and ecosystems developed from the very beginning. Starting with nothing but bare volcanic rock, another factor that makes Surtsey mysterious is its extreme isolation and strict protection. Shortly after the island formed, the researchers realized that it could become a perfect nature laboratory for studying how life colonizes the new land. But if humans frequently visited the island, they might accidentally bring plants, insects, or microbes that would disrupt the natural process. To prevent this, the government of Iceland declared Surtsey a protected scientific reserve. Today, access to the island is extremely restricted. Only a small number of researchers are allowed to visit. They must follow the strict rules to avoid introducing the foreign species. Even simple things such as attack to clothing or soil carried on boats could interfere with the natural development of the Iceland ecosystem. Because of these restrictions, Surtsey has become one of the most carefully protected islands in the world. This protection creates a strange and fascinating situation. While the island is scientifically important, it is also largely off limit to the public. Most people will never be able to visit it. Its natural changes are observed only through the carefully controlled research. The island's landscape itself also contributes to its unusual character. Unlike tropical islands filled with the lush vegetation, Surtsey initially consisted of nothing but black volcanic ash, dark lava fields, and the streaming craters. The terrain looked almost alien, a stark landscape stripped entirely by fiery molten rock. Strong winds and powerful waves constantly reshaped the island's coastline. Because of some of the volcanic material is soft and fragile, parts of the island slowly erode into the sea. This means that the island is not only growing through the volcanic activity but also shrinking through the erosion at the same time. Its ecosystem is also unusual. When the Surtsey expert appeared, it had no life at all, no plants, no animals, no soil over time. However, the life slowly began arriving in unexpected ways. Seeds carried by wind drifted across the ocean. Birds flying overhead dropped seeds and nutrients. Ocean currents brought their small organisms onto the shores. This gradual arrival of the life created a strange ecological experiment, one where the scientists could watch an entire ecosystem build itself from the ground up. Another reason Surtsey is fascinating is the powerful geological forces beneath it. The island sits near the Mid-Atlantic Ridge, where the North American plate, the Eurasian plate, slowly move apart. Magma from deep inside the Earth rises through these powdery, created volcanoes and new crust on the ocean floor. Sushi is a visible reminder of this enormous geological process. In many ways, the island is not just a place, it is a moment in Earth history captured in real time. It shows us how the new island is created, how the ecosystem slowly emerged, and how powerful the natural forces continue to shaping our planet. This combination of volcanic origins, scientific importance, strict protection, and ever-changing landscape makes Surtsey Island one of the strangest and most mysterious islands on the Earth. It is not mysterious because of the legend or lost civilizations. Instead, its mystery lies in something more remarkable. The opportunity to witness the birth and the evolution of an island almost exactly as nature intended. The natural world of Surtsey Island is unlike that of most islands on the earth. Instead of ancient forests or long-established ecosystem, Surtsey began as a completely barren landscape, a place where life had to start from the very beginning. When the island first rose from the waters of North Atlantic Ocean in 1963, its surface was nothing but streaming volcanic rock, black ash, and the dark lava formations. There were no plants, no animal, and no even soil. It looked like the surface of another planet than a typical island. The geography of Surtsey was created through the powerful volcanic forces. The eruption that formed the island occurred along the mid-Atlantic ridge, a massive underwater mountain chain where the tectonic plates slowly move apart. As magma pushes upward through the cracks in the ocean floor, it exploded violently when it came into contact with the cold seawater. These explosive eruptions sent clouds of ashes and steam thousands of meters into the air while building layers of volcanic rock that slowly formed the island. Even today, the landscape of Surtsey still shows the clear signs of its fiery birth. The island contains hardened lava flows, volcanic craters, and rough basalt cliffs that face the open ocean. Some areas consist of the dark volcanic sand created when softer ash and the rock break down under the constant force of wind and waves. Over time, the sea has begun reshaping the island. The powerful Atlantic storms crashed against the coastline, slowly eroding the outer edges of the volcanic rock. Parts of the island that once stood high above the sea have gradually disappeared with the waves, while more solid lava formations remain standing. This ongoing process means that the island is constantly changing, but perhaps the most fascinating natural phenomenon on Surtsey is the slow arrival of life. When the island first appeared, scientists carefully observed how the earliest living organisms began colonizing the barren land. One of the first forms of life to appear were tiny microorganisms and fungi created by the wind or the sea. Soon after, hardy pioneer plants began arriving seeds carried by the ocean currents washed onto the island beaches. Other seeds were blown across the sea by the strong winds. Some arrived attached to the feather of or feet of birds flying overhead. Among the earliest plants to establish themselves were mosses and lichens, simple organisms capable of surviving in harsh environments with very little soil or nutrition. These pioneer species play a crucial role by slowing breaking down the volcanic rock and trapping small amounts of organic material. They help create the first thin layer of the soil on the island. Once soil began forming, more complex plants were able to grow. Today, several species of grasses, flowers, and small plants now grow across the path of the island. Birds have also played an important role in shaping island ecosystem. Seabirds such as gulls, foremost, and puffins have begun nesting on the island cliff and grassy areas as they peel the leaves and leave behind droppings rich in nutrients. They have fertilized the soil and allowing even more plants to grow. This interaction between the birds and the plants gradually transformed the once barren volcanic island into a living ecosystem. The surrounding ocean also contributes to the island's natural richness. Beneath the waves, marine life thrives through all around the rocky coastline. Fish, shellfish, and other ocean creatures find shelter among the underwater lava formation and reefs. The island climate adds another dramatic element to its environment. Located south of Iceland, Surtsey experiences strong wind, cool temperatures, and frequent storms. Winter brings the powerful Atlantic weather system, while the summer offers the slightly milder conditions but still unpredictable seas. These extreme weather patterns challenge the plants and the animals that attempt to survive there, making the island an ongoing test of the nature resilience. What makes the sea truly extraordinary is that the scientists can watch this entire ecological story unfold step by step. Instead of studying a major ecosystem that formed long ago, researchers can observe how the nature builds an environment from the scratch. beginning with bare rock and slowly transforming it into a thriving habitat. In this way, Surtsey Island acts as a living laboratory of life itself. It shows how powerful natural forces create land, how the smallest organisms prepare the way for the larger one, and how the ecosystem gradually grows through their patience and time. From the volcanic fire to living forest, the Surtsey revealed one of the most fascinating transformations taking place on our planet today. Although the Surtsey Island is one of the youngest islands on Earth, its short story filled with fascinating story, dramatic event, and scientific milestones that captured the attention of the entire world. The story begins in the November 1963 when the fishermen sailing south of Iceland noticed something extraordinary rising from the water of the North Atlantic Ocean. At first they believed it might be a ship or fire or smoke rising from the sea. But as they moved closer, they realized something much more remarkable was happening. The ocean itself was erupting. Massive explosions of steam, ice, and lava shot into the sky as molten rock and pulses upward through the ocean. This violent eruption is caused by the magma rising from the mid-Atlantic ridge, one of the most active volcanic regions on the planet. Within days, the eruption built a small amount of volcanic material that slowly broke through the surface of water. What had been empty sea just days earlier became a brand new island. News of the event spread quickly around the world. Scientists, journalists, and curious observers rushed to Iceland to witness one of the rarest natural events imaginable, the birth of an island. The newly formed island was named Surtsey after Surt, a powerful fire giant from Norse mythology. In ancient legends, Surt was said to rise from the land of fire during the final battle of the gods, bringing the flames would reshape the world. The name seems perfectly suited for an island born from the fire and lava. For the next several years, the volcanic eruption continued stripping the island. Explosive bursts of ash altered with flowing lava that hardened into the dark volcanic rock. Scientists watched closely as the island grew larger and taller above the ocean. But the island's story soon included a strange and unexpected event. During the early years of scientific research on Surtsey, one researcher accidentally introduced the first plant to the island, a potato. According to the story, the scientists had buried the food waste in the ground, and sometime later a small potato plant began growing in the volcanic soil. This accidental experiment demonstrated how easily life could begin colonizing the island because the scientists wanted to observe the natural ecological processes without human interference. Strict rules were soon established. Researchers visiting the island had to follow careful procedures to prevent the seeds, the insects, and the microorganisms from being introduced accidentally. This strict protection helped turn Surtsey into one of the most carefully studied natural environments in the world. Over the time, another curious phenomenon began attracting attention: the erosion. While the volcanic eruptions had rapidly peeled the island, the powerful waves of the North Atlantic Ocean began slowly wearing it away. Storms crashed against the coastline, breaking apart loose volcanic ash and carrying it back into the sea. This process creating a strange balance between creation and destruction. The island had been born in dramatic fashion, but it was already beginning to shrink. Scientists realized that the long-term survival of Surtsey depended on the strength of its lava formation. Softer volcanic materials would eventually disappear when harder lava rock might preserve the island for centuries. Today, Surtsey remains uninhabited and protected. There are no permanent buildings, no villages, no roads. Human presence on the island is limited to the occasional scientific Visits carefully regulated by the Icelandic government. Because of this protection, the island has become something rare in the modern world, a place where the natural processes unfold almost exactly as they would have thousands of years ago. Unlike many ancient islands filled with myths of lost civilization or shipwrecked explorers, Surtsey mystery lies in something even more extraordinary. It is a place where the humans have witnessed the birth of a new island, where the scientists observe the slow arrival of life, and where the nature continues shaping a young world almost exactly as it has done throughout the Earth's long history. In the vast ocean south of Iceland, the Surtsey Islands stand as a powerful reminder that our planet is still alive, still evolving, and still capable of surprising Earth with events that feel almost mythological in their scale and beauty. Few places on Earth capture the attention of scientists quite like Surtsey Island. While many islands are studied for their wildlife, culture, and geological history, Surtsey offers something incredibly rare: the opportunity to observe their birth and the development of an entire ecosystem from the very beginning. When the island first emerged from the waters of the North Atlantic Ocean in the 1963, it provided scientists with a natural laboratory unlike any other. Before that moment, nothing existed there but an open sea. There were no plants, no animals, and not even soil. For researchers, this meant that they could observe how the light slowly colonized the new land, a process that usually takes place for over thousands of years without human observation. Almost immediately, scientists began studying how different forms of light arrived on the island. These were carried by the wind across the ocean. Others applied through the ocean current drifting onto the beaches. Birds flying overhead, drop seeds or organic material that have enriched the volcanic soil. These simple events allow researchers to watch ecological succession unfold in the real time. Ecological succession is the process through which life gradually transforms a barren landscape into a complex ecosystem. On the surface, the first colonizers were hardy organisms such as mosses, lichens, and microorganisms that could survive on the bare volcanic rock. Over the time, these pioneer species have created the food thin layers of the soil, allowing grasses and flowering plants to grow. Birds soon followed. The seabird began nesting on the island cliffs, bringing the nutrients in the form of droppings that fertilized the soil. This allowed more plant species to survive, to thrive, gradually transforming the parts of the island from the black volcanic rock into the patches of green vegetation. For scientists studying the evolution and ecological development, this process is incredibly valuable. Very few locations on Earth allow the researchers to watch an ecosystem grow from nothing. Surtsey provides a real-world example of how life spreads, adapts, and builds new environments over time. Geologists are equally fascinated by the old island. The Surtsey lies near the Mid-Atlantic Ridge, a massive tectonic boundary where the North American plate slowly moves away from the Eurasian plate. As the plates shift apart, the magma from deep within the Earth rises toward the surface, creating the volcanoes and ocean crust. The eruption that forms the sea is a perfect example of this powerful geological process. By studying the island volcanic rock, lava flows, and erosion patterns, the geologists can better understand how the oceanic islands form and how they change over time. Climate scientists also find the island valuable because the Surtsey has remained largely untouched by the human activity. It offers a rare environment where the natural climate patterns can be studied without the interference from the pollution, urban development, or agriculture. The island plants, birds, and soil development provide a clue about how ecosystems respond to changing the weather patterns and the ocean condition in the North Atlantic Ocean. For travelers and explorers, Surtsey hold a different kind of fascination. In a world where the most places are accessible by airplane, cruise ship, or highway, the idea of a completely restricted island feels almost mysterious. Very few people will ever have the opportunities to step onto the Surtsey volcanic shores. The island is protected by the government of Iceland, and only a small group of researchers are allowed to visit under the strict supervision. This limited access adds to the island mystique. People are naturally curious about places that remain beyond the reach. Surtsey represents one of the last landscapes on Earth where the nature continues to evolving without the direct human influence. But perhaps the greatest fascination comes from what Surtsey teaches us about our planet. The island is a reminder that the Earth is not a finished world. New land can still rise from the ocean. The ecosystem can still grow from the bedrock, and life can still find ways to adapt, to spread and flourish in the most unexpected places, from the fiery eruption that created it to the quiet arrival of the first plants and birds. Surtsey Island tells a remarkable story about the resilience of nature. It shows us that our planet is constantly changing, building new landscapes, shaping new ecosystems, and revealing the incredible diversity of the life that makes Earth such a fascinating place to explore. Far, far out in the cold waters of the North Atlantic Ocean south of Iceland, a dark volcanic island rises quietly from the restless sea. This is the Sea Island, a place where the power of the earth itself once burst through the ocean floor and created new land before the eyes of modern humanity. From a distance, the island appears dark and mysterious. The coastline is lined with the dark volcanic cliffs where the waves crash endlessly against the hardened lava rock. Like sand beaches stretch along the shore, shaped by the constant rhythm of the sea. The wind moves freely across the open landscape, carrying the salty scent of the ocean and the distant cries of the seabirds circling overhead. Above it all, the sky of North Atlantic stretches wide and dramatic. Clouds move quickly across the horizon, sometimes revealing the brief moment of sunlight that illuminates the island rough volcanic surface. When the light touches the land, the state of deep charcoal, red lava, and the dark basalt rock reveal the island's fiery origin. At the center of the island rises a volcanic crater, the very place where the molten rock once erupted violently into the air during the island birth in 1963. Today, the crater sits silent, its slope weathered by the wind, the rain, and reminder of explosive forces that once shaped the land. Yes, light has begun to appear here. Small patches of green vegetation cling to the volcanic soil. Hardy grasses bend in the strong ocean wind, and moss and leeches slowly spread across the rough rock, quietly transforming once the parent surface. The seabirds glide above the island, their wings catching the cold Atlantic air. Some nest along the cliffs, while others rest on the beaches before returning to the open ocean. Their presence brings the moment and the sound to an island that once stood silent. At night, the atmosphere becomes very powerful. The wind sweeps across the empty landscape as the waves echo against the dark shoreline. Above the island, the stars shine brightly in the clear northern sky, reflecting faintly on the endless waters surrounding the land. In these quiet moments, Surtsey Land feels almost timeless. It is a place where the fire once met water, where a new world rose from the sea, and where the nature continues to its slow and patient work, turning a young volcanic island into a living landscape shaped by wind, ocean, and life itself. As we step back and reflect on the story of Surtsey Island, we begin to understand just how extraordinary our planet truly is. In a world where the technology allows us to map nearly every corner of the globe, it can sometimes feel as though the age of discovery is behind us. But islands like Surtsey remind us that the Earth is still alive with change, mystery, and wonder. In 1963, when this island suddenly rose from the depth of the North Atlantic Ocean, it was more than just a volcanic event. It was a rare moment when the humanity witnessed a creation of new land in the real time. What had once been empty sea transformed into a rugged landscape of the lava and ash, shaped by the powerful geological forces moving beneath the planet's surface. These forces originate along the massive structures such as the Mid-Atlantic Ridge, where the North American plate and the Eurasian plate slowly move apart over the millions of years. These tectonic movements have created entire continents and ocean basins. Surtsey is simply the newest chapter in that long geological story. Yet the island's true significance lies not only in their fiery birth, but in what happened afterward. Once the volcanic eruption ended, the island stood completely barren. There were no plants, no animals, no soil, only black volcanic rock surrounded by the endless ocean. Then slowly and quietly, life began to arrive. Ships drifted across the sea. Moses clung to the rough lava surface. Seabirds landed on the cliffs, bringing the nutrients that allowed the plants to grow. Step by step, the island began transforming from the lifeless stone into a living ecosystem. This slow and delicate process is something scientists rarely have the opportunity to observe from the beginning. By protecting the island and the limited access, the government of Iceland has allowed Surtsey to remain a natural laboratory where the forces of nature can unfold without the human interference. In many ways, Surtsey shows us how patient and resilient the nature truly is. Life does not rush, it abides, slowly adapts carefully and builds the ecosystem over decades, centuries, and millennia. The island also reminds us that the Earth is constantly changing. Beneath the oceans, the new volcanic islands may be still be forming. Beneath the forests and mountains, the tectonic plates continue shifting across the deserts and oceans. Winds and currents carry the seed of new life. Our planet is not a finished landscape, it is a evolving world shaped by fire, water, wind, and time. And that may be the most fascinating lesson of all, because even in the modern era with satellites, global travel, and scientific exploration, there are still places where the nature continues its work quietly, far beyond the reach of human control. Islands like the Surtsey stand as powerful reminder that the earth is full of wonders that we are only beginning to understand. They invite us to look at our planet not just as a place we live, but as a dynamic world still filled with mystery, beauty, and discovery waiting to unfold.